I recently replaced my serpentine belt because I was having a charging issue. They tested the battery and they said that it wasn't a battery issue. The place that I went to said it was more than likely the belt, even though I saw nothing wrong with the belt. I replaced the belt, and eventually they ended up replacing the battery as well because it was still under warranty, but they tried desperately to not replace it. But now I have an issue with, there's a whirring or whining sound. It's more common when I first start the truck up and then tends to go away some. But if I shut the truck off and then start it again, you can hear it. The noise doesn't change with the steering, so I don't believe it's the steering pump right now. And then something else I've noticed, when the truck is running, that the tensioner arm does bounce up and down while the truck is idling. So it could be a bad bearing, but it could be any number of things. It could be the pulley here or the pulley over there. But I'll start with the tensioner arm and loosen the belt on it, and then check the tensioner arm, because if it's a bearing in the tensioner arm, then hopefully that's all that needs to be replaced. This pulley right here, I've checked all the others, but this one right here makes a very strange noise as it turns. And when the vehicle is running, I can imagine that same noise just at a faster speed. So the noise isn't exactly the same, but it sounds very familiar. And this is what I initially got out of the radiator. It's supposed to be yellowish gold. It's more like a dirty brown. I already have the serpentine belt off, so instead of using the serpentine belt to help me get the bolts off of the pulley on the water pump, I'm using this Pittsburgh filter wrench. I haven't been able to use it on any filters, but it actually works pretty good for getting the 10mm bolts out of the pulley for the water pump. I've removed the 4 10mm bolts from the water pump pulley, and one of the things you can see is there's some rubber buildup from the belt, and being that it's in odd spots, it's kind of like, it looks like where the belt may have skipped or chirped across the pulley, but this isn't the only one that has it. So there's obviously a serpentine belt skipping, chirping issue. And since I've removed this, now when I spin the water pump, the noise isn't as bad, but I think the pulley actually pronounces the sound, but I can still hear it. It's just not as bad. I've removed the 4 10mm bolts from the water pump, and it does not want to budge. Even though this is the new one, what's happening is there's a rubber gasket that goes here, and this sits inside there, and it's been sitting there for 11 years. So it's pretty much not wanting to let go. Sprayed a little penetrating oil on it. Hopefully it'll loosen it up so I can remove it. I've already tried using a rubber mallet. Careful not to hit anything else in the process. Kind of tight quarters to be working in, but hopefully the penetrating oil will help. The water pump, even after removing all the bolts, wouldn't budge even after putting penetrating oil on it. But what I found that did work is I just happen to have this copper pipe left over from another project, and if I get it angled and hammer here, it actually loosened up the pump, and then loosens that side, and then just put it in over on this side. And do the same thing, and it basically shimmies the pump out. I don't recommend doing this if you think there is a possibility of putting the same water pump back on, because you probably cause damage to the water pump doing this. But if you know for sure that you're replacing it, it may not be a big deal. Before draining the radiator, I remove the cap on the radiator reservoir, and then also remove the cap on the radiator before I open the drain cock at the bottom of the radiator. And if you know you didn't get that much coming out of the drain cock at the bottom of the radiator, just be prepared that when you do remove the water pump, that whatever you didn't get out beforehand is going to come out of the water pump, so just be prepared for that. Radiator fluid draining out of the water pump once it came unseated. You can definitely hear something internally wrong with this water pump, because the new one doesn't make any sound at all. But I was able to get the pump that is required for the 2010 Ford F-150. It has this metal piece, unlike the other one, and then so this end is similar to the one on here. The other one that I had the threads on it for the fan, and it also comes with this O-ring that goes on here. Please like, comment, or subscribe. Thanks again.